Hello. Do you want a tomato? You want it? Oh, here they come. Hey everyone. I thought I'd do a quick video update. Looks like Kenny's come to help. So yeah, the chickens are doing all right. We've had a lot of heat. I think everywhere's had a lot of heat these last few weeks. And last night we had a bit of rain, so it's a lot cooler. The chickens are happier for it. We had to take their little pinnies off, didn't we? Those, I don't think, in case you haven't heard or seen, put little pinnies on them, little aprons or whatever, to protect their backs from GC's feet, which is why they're looking a bit bald. But with the heat, it was just like, I need to take it off really. So here is my wonderful compost heap. So this is 2 loads of hay. So literally it would be up to about here when we started. So this is 2 lots combined. So you can see where it's already halfway down. So once it sort of decomposes, it really does lose volume. So I'm not too sure how far this is going to go for our veg patch. The nirvana is that we get to really produce all of the compost that we need, but I'm not too sure how far that's going to go. We've got the extra, well, the first bay going, so we're adding veg, and there's a lot of, I think they're quinces, we're not sure yet, but apples, they're all dropping off the tree, so everything I find on the floor we just sort of chuck in here. So that's it for the chicken update and the compost update. Are they juicy? So let's go over to the veg patch. Yeah, Will's had to put these extra barriers up because the chickens are a bit smart, so when they get up there, they figured out at some point in time they could get round here, even though Will's put some wire. They actually were jumping onto the door and then hopping over and getting down there. And well, you can imagine once they get into the veg patch, the amount of scratching that was going on. So, where to start? So this is the first area I think a lot of you saw that Will did. It's just got the green beans going in, or started to grow. They're looking better. You can see some of them were quite yellow, but this newer growth seems quite green. I think, though, despite all that luscious growth, we haven't really got any beans off of them. So I don't know if it's the heat or whatever. When this one here has got a lot of flowers on it, so I don't know if that will mean it will turn into green beans. That, or we don't have enough pollinators here maybe. As a bit of a backstory, I don't know if you remember when I said that we were having a lot of problems with growing stuff after we put all the compost in. I'd pretty much written off this season, and I didn't think anything was going to grow at all. But I think a couple of months ago it started to change. We think we had 2 theories for the compost. One was it was contamination from like pesticides, which can happen. We didn't see enough evidence of leaf curling and that sort of stuff that would suggest that it was a pesticide. So the other one is perhaps that the compost just wasn't ready, and so it's actively still breaking down, and that generally robs nitrogen, which is a lot of stunted growth and that sort of stuff that we were seeing. But as you can see, we're getting stuff coming through now. So we've got courgettes. Oh god, my brain's gone blank. Whatever that thing is, it's on the tip of my tongue and I can't remember. We've got lettuce. So this is quite old really. We've been using this pretty much all through summer for barbecues and whatnot. But that's starting to bolt now. You can see from the height of it. Our carrots are down there, they're doing okay. Will pulled up some yesterday. So not too bad for this side. Our water tank that we put in a couple of months ago is now moved to its new position over here. So you can see there's a much better job that's been done by Will. We realised that one air brick just wasn't enough really. It was awkward to get the watering can underneath. So we're always bashing this. Especially when you're adding more wood chip. Yeah, it was just awkward. Plus the water pressure, when it gets to about here, if you're using just the hose, it really drops off. We've got this drip feed line here. So yeah, when it gets to about there, it didn't make it to the end of the potato patch. So what the plan is now is to combine these two, so when they're full up, should maintain that water pressure for a lot longer, in theory. Potatoes. So yeah, they're looking a bit ropey now, but that's because they're finished. I pulled up some of them, so that, I think that patch there and that patch here we're using for dinners and whatnot. Yeah, they've come out all right. I don't think they're the biggest we've grown. The soil's obviously very different here. We could potentially just leave these in the ground, but we've got those, I forgot what they're called now, chafers or something, like those beetle larvas. I've posted about them before, but they do have a tendency to have a little nosh on the potatoes. I had a couple of potatoes just left in those tubs over there, so that was another experiment, just seeing how they did in containers. But after a few weeks being left in there, when I went to harvest, I kid you not, there's about 50 of these grub-looking things. It's something of a horror movie. The chickens loved them, but yeah, it was a bit of an infestation, to be honest with you. So I'm keeping an eye out on other things as well. The sunflowers are all coming up. I seem to be looking the wrong way. Let's go have a look. There we go. If you can see that. But we'll put loads of those in. So they're for Tom. This patch here, I don't think I've mentioned before. Possibly have, because I kind of forget what I've spoken about and what I haven't. This really was just a test bed, really. I had a couple of bags of compost left. And I thought, well, the only thing I could think of growing worthwhile at this point of the year would be flowers. So I've just used, because we didn't have any more wood chip, but I had loads of hay, so I just really, put hay around as the paths. It's kind of holding up for the most part. Looks a bit of a mess, purely because blackbirds, and I think it's mainly blackbirds, but the birds are coming in and having a good old dig around. I don't know if it'll really come up on camera, but I've tried to sort this out. But they keep coming into here to dig everything up, probably looking for those grubs. They pretty much messed up the lemon tree pot. You can see in here, I mean, that's not looking too bad, but I can come out and it's just all turfed out. I've never had that problem with birds before, and it's only really started to happen in the last few weeks, even to the point where I get into the polytunnel, and you find the edges of your bed and your path kind of all mucked up, so we have to sort of try and tidy them up. So in the polytunnel, really it's all the same plants, but I think I'll have to look back at the older videos, but it's a lot fuller in here now. So I think this is cucumber. So they're all coming up fine. The broccoli starting to come through, and the marigolds as well. Christelle, si tu regardais, voici ton souci. C'est très joli maintenant, non? So this is a gift from Christelle. She gave us quite a few plants to put in here. So very grateful, thank you. What's we got here? Chili plants. More chili plants. Big chili plants. Small chili plants. This is another example of the problem we've had with compost. And I don't know what's gone on with this patch, but that just hasn't changed. As you saw outside, it kind of recovered. In here, whether it's a watering thing, really the stunted growth just persisted, because they were planted exactly the same time, same seeds, but different composts. Yeah, so that's a big, huge difference between the growth. I mean, even these ones over here aren't that great. I don't know if it's going out on camera, but you can see this like mottling. It could be due to water, or it could be possibly due to some sort of other deficiency. And I've never seen this before. I've grown these a few times now, and they always come out quite straight, but they look really gnarly. I don't think it's the type of seed, but yeah. And then when you see things like that, you start to think, oh, is it some sort of contamination, maybe disease or something? But there's so many different factors, and even when you see signs of something, it's not necessarily going to point you in the right direction 100%. There might be another 10 possible causes. So yeah, I'm just going to see what happens next year. Possibly put some on the outside rather than the polytunnel if it gets too hot in here. Got loads of cherry tomatoes. These are really nice. Down here, this is what I've got to remember what I've planted now. Leeks. So these will need thinning out. Very slow growing, but again, this could be the compost again because these went in ages ago. I've got more of the big tomatoes, which the chickens also love. And I'm not normally a fan of these. They're quite fleshy. Normally, if you buy them in the superstore, different tomatoes have different textures. So normally I just wouldn't bother with those. But picking them fresh, really tasty, and then even the texture slightly better, I would say. So I've quite enjoyed having those for our barbecues. More cucumbers. I think that's another. Yep, more cucumber there. As you can tell, Will's had to come up with very creative and tasty ideas on how to store our cucumbers. So I think he cuts them up and puts them into the freezer, and then makes some sort of, I think it's either Turkish or a Greek sort of dish. It's like Greek yogurt, mint, and cucumber. So you can add that to like burgers or other dishes. So this is the sweet corn. I always keep calling it popcorn because it's the variety is meant for popcorn. I didn't know that when I bought it, but we'll just give it a go eating it normally. And if it's not that great, then well, we'll have lots of popcorn. So I think if I understand this correctly, hopefully I'm not spreading fake information. This is why you need more than one or multiple plants. I think this is like the male part of the plant, and this is kind of where the corns are coming up. If I've got more, yeah, so that's a corn coming up there, but this catches, I suppose, the spores from there, and they get pollinated, and then that will form the cob. I'm pretty sure that's what's happening there. So they're all coming up fine. Doing way better than those ones over there, because originally okay, let's go over there, it's a bit clearer to see. So on the perimeter on the outside, again, this was an experiment to see if the rabbits would eat them, how far they might last, but also because of the problems we're having with compost, how would it grow if I just planted it straight into clay? Because that's effectively what that is over there. It's not really soil per se. And they were doing great. But now they're doing way better. So as I say, whatever that problem was, it does feel like it's lifted, which is again why I think it's possibly nitrogen. The comfrey's all growing nicely, so it's all really bushy and lush, so we'll be using that as like a fertilizer or maybe even a cover crop. Cabbages are doing a lot better, so I've taken off all the outer leaves, because these were really slow growing. They were getting really eaten by the flea beetle, but now that season of the flea beetle is over, yeah, they're looking a lot better. We're not getting all these pinholes everywhere. So we've got more marigolds, more cabbages there, more tomatoes there. Okay, the onions, they are what they are this year. They didn't get enough watering. I think that's the crux of the issue for them. We weren't really here for the first, I suppose, few months when they went in. And this particular compost, which is different to what we've been using everywhere else, is quite fibrous. It feels more like coconut. You know, that fur you get off coconut shells. It feels more like that husky. Is it husky? I don't know. I think that's the right word. But it really doesn't hold any moisture at all. So yeah, they're really small. They're tiny, really, compared to what we had before. Still tasty, just not much of it. This patch here is potatoes. So this is the Ruth Stout method. We just pretty much put them on the ground, cover them up. We use a very small amount of compost. But it might change by the time we get back later in the year. But I think that's not really doing anything. The heat probably hasn't helped, but you can see the plants are really, really small. And we have dug up some of them, and they haven't really done anything. You get tiny, tiny little potatoes, not really worth eating, really. And this has been kind of semi-successful. So again, it was an experiment with all the issues we're having with compost. Like the sweet corn on the outside, I thought, well, if I put I think it's the French beans here, I've put them there, straight into the compost there, and then straight into soil or clay. And pretty much what's around at the bottom is just wood chip. This grew way, way better, a lot more, way, way more quickly. I don't know if it'll come from camera, but if you look at this one and then that one, it's just way bushier. So I think Will said he got probably a small handful of this side versus a whole bowl off of this side. So same seeds planted at the same time, but again, whatever this issue is or was, still is making a big difference of the amount of veg we're getting off these ones. Stuck under here. So the lavenders are doing really good. So these are the cuttings I did last year. They're growing nicely. And this is our, okay, I think that's thyme. That's like a lemon balm. And I can't remember what that is. So this is kind of our herb patch. Again, the birds seem to have found this patch. I think it's, again, mainly the blackbirds, but they keep digging. So I've got to keep backfilling and everything. Tomato plants, they're just because of the season we're at, they're not looking particularly great, but we've got a lot more plants for next year. Another giant sunflower. Yeah, I think that's kind of it really. So, okay, it wasn't the greatest success in some ways, but in other ways it's been really good because we've learned a lot around the pests that we're going to have to manage next year. So the flea beetle, the birds, the grubs. And we've got a better idea of perhaps what to grow or what not to grow in the polytunnel. But I think also because this is when we came here, this was overgrown. So when we cleared it, there was literally nothing. This is barren. We used the no-dig method, so putting the cardboard down and all the wood chip and everything. So I think by next year, it's going to be much more of a balanced ecosystem. And one of the perks of no-dig is all the soil microbiology and the fungi will have established more. So I'm hoping that in conjunction with our own homegrown compost, how far that goes, I really don't know. I think we're going to have a much better experience next year. I think also we'll be growing a lot more, starting a lot more off in the polytunnel before we plant it outside. Certainly for the cabbages, that should, at least if they're going to get attacked by the flea beetle, being an adult plant, it should cope a bit better. Anyway, I've been rabbiting a bit too much. Love you all, and I'll speak to you later. Bye.